It all started with a simple question. Well, at least it should have been simple. Where the hell is my coffee? I barked, my voice slicing through the quiet hum of the cafe like a knife. The young woman behind the counter flinched, but quickly plastered on a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her hands trembled as she placed the steaming cup in front of me, along with the bill. My irritation had already reached its boiling point after waiting what felt like an eternity for something as basic as coffee. But then, I saw it. The tip. $7? $7? What kind of scam is this? I hissed, slamming the paper down onto the counter. The sound echoed unnaturally loud, drawing stares from the few other patrons scattered around the room. She blinked rapidly, clearly trying to maintain her composure, but I could see the panic bubbling beneath the surface. Is this some sort of joke? Do you people think you can just steal from anyone who walks in here? My words were sharp, venomous even, and they hung heavy in the air between us. The tension was suffocating. Every breath I took seemed to weigh more than the last, and every second stretched into an eternity. The girl's lips parted slightly as if she wanted to defend herself, but no sound came out. Instead, she stood there frozen, her wide eyes darting around the room like a cornered animal searching for an escape route. It wasn't just anger fueling me anymore. It was suspicion, paranoia. Was this part of some larger scheme? Had she poisoned my drink? Or worse, was this entire cafe some twisted operation designed to exploit unsuspecting customers? Answer me, I demanded, leaning closer until our faces were only inches apart. The faint scent of vanilla wafted toward me, incongruously sweet against the bitterness radiating off both of us. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause, leaving nothing but the deafening silence of unspoken accusations, and the ominous feeling that things were about to spiral far beyond anything I could control. The first time it happened, I thought I was dreaming, or perhaps hallucinating. One moment, I was stepping out of the cafe, my mind still simmering with anger over the absurd tip on my bill. The next, a scooter came hurtling toward me like a missile. There was no time to react. The impact sent me sprawling backward onto the pavement. My vision blurred, and for a fleeting second, I saw nothing but white light. Then, silence. When I opened my eyes again, I was back inside the cafe. The same barista stood behind the counter, her expression unchanged as she handed me my coffee once more. "Here you go, sir," she said cheerfully as if none of it had happened. Panic surged through me like wildfire. Had I died? Was this some kind of cosmic joke? My heart pounded so loudly in my chest that I could barely hear myself think. But then it happened again and again and again. Each loop grew worse. The initial collision had been jarring but survivable. By the third iteration, however, the scooter didn't just graze me. It plowed into me full force, sending my body flying several feet before slamming against the ground. Every nerve ending screamed in agony, and when I woke up yet again at the cafe counter, I felt phantom pains lingering in my limbs. It wasn't just physical torment either. Each death left an indelible scar on my psyche, gnawing away at what little sanity I had left. Desperation clawed at me. I tried everything to break free from this endless cycle. Once, I shouted warnings at everyone who passed by outside the cafe. "Watch out! A scooter is coming!" But they only stared at me as though I'd lost my mind. Another time, I lunged at the scooter rider himself, grabbing his arm in a futile attempt to stop him. He shook me off effortlessly, and moments later, I found myself sprawled across the asphalt once more. Yet another failed experiment. I even attempted escape routes within the cafe itself. Hiding in the restroom, barricading the door, I convinced myself that staying put would somehow shield me from the inevitable crash. But no matter where I hid or how fast I ran, reality always snapped back into place like a rubber band stretched too far. Back I went, sitting at the same table, staring at the same steaming cup of coffee, hearing those maddeningly cheerful words, "Here you go, sir." By now, dread consumed me entirely. What started as frustration over a $7 tip had spiraled into something far darker, a labyrinth of despair with no visible exit. Every breath felt heavier than the last, every heartbeat louder, every thought more chaotic. Why me? Why now? I wondered if there was some deeper meaning behind this torture, some lesson I was meant to learn. Or maybe, just maybe, it was all random cruelty, a glitch in the universe's programming designed specifically to drive me insane. And yet, amidst the chaos, one constant remained: the barista. She never questioned why I kept returning, never flinched when I lashed out in rage or despair. Her calm demeanor unnerved me almost as much as the scooter crashes themselves. Did she know something I didn't? Was she part of whatever twisted game fate was playing? I wanted to confront her, demand answers, but fear held me back. Fear of what she might say, or worse, what she wouldn't. As the loops continued, I began losing track of time. Hours? Days? Weeks? It all blurred together in a haze of pain and confusion. Each return to the café brought fresh waves of terror, knowing exactly what awaited me outside those doors. And yet, paradoxically, familiarity bred a strange sort of comfort. At least I knew what to expect now, even if it was unbearable. By the time we reached this point, I was no longer just a man trapped in an endless loop of death and rebirth. I was a broken soul teetering on the edge of madness. Each return to the cafe brought with it not only the dread of impending doom, but also the crushing weight of my own guilt. The barista, whose name I still didn't know, had become both my tormentor and my anchor. Her calm demeanor unnerved me more than anything else because it stood in stark contrast to the chaos consuming me. Then came the moment that would change everything, or at least begin to unravel the tangled mess inside me. After yet another violent collision with the scooter, I woke up once again at the cafe counter. This time, however, something felt different. She wasn't smiling as brightly as before. Her eyes were red-rimmed, brimming with unshed tears. For the first time, she looked fragile. Not like the unshakable figure who had silently endured my tirades for what felt like eternity. "I've been working here for a year and a half," she began haltingly, her voice trembling. "And do you know what? I can't even afford one slice of their cheapest cheesecake." Her words hung heavy in the air, raw and unfiltered. Some days, I wonder why I bother at all. It's not just about the money, it's everything. She paused, biting her lip as if trying to hold back the floodgates of emotion threatening to burst open. Her story came pouring out in fragments, each piece sharper than the last. I used to be fine. Well, sort of fine. At school until some kids started bullying me. They made my life hell every single day. And then her voice cracked and a tear slipped down her cheek. Then there was the landlord, a white guy, just like you. He kicked me out because I couldn't pay the rent on time. Just like that, I lost my home. Everything I owned is now crammed into a tiny storage unit. The room seemed to shrink around us as her words sank in. My chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from shame. Here I was, ranting and raging over a $7 tip while she carried burdens far heavier than anything I could imagine. Every insult I'd hurled at her replayed in my mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. How could I have been so blind? So cruel? Before I could respond, she forced a small laugh, though it sounded hollow. "Let's eat something before we die again, huh?" She gestured toward the dessert menu, which listed an array of decadent treats. We might as well enjoy ourselves while we can. Who knows? Maybe calories won't follow us to the afterlife. For a fleeting moment, the absurdity of her suggestion broke through the tension. We ordered nearly everything on the menu: cheesecakes, brownies, macarons, and sat together in silence as we ate. The sweetness of the desserts clashed jarringly with the bitterness of our shared reality, yet somehow it worked. There was something almost magical in the way she laughed softly between bites, her earlier sorrow melting away into quiet contentment. As we ate, I found myself noticing details I'd missed before. The faint dimple in her left cheek when she smiled, the way her hands moved gracefully despite their slight tremble, the vulnerability in her gaze that hinted at resilience far greater than mine. In those moments, the relentless cycle of death and despair faded into the background, replaced by a fragile sense of connection. The moment the curse seemed to lift, a fragile hope bloomed within us, but it was tinged with unease. Neither of us dared to trust this newfound freedom entirely. Every movement felt deliberate, every breath cautious, as though one misstep could shatter the delicate illusion we now inhabited. "Are you sure this is over?" I asked her, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the cafe counter. Her eyes flickered toward the door, then back to me, uncertainty clouding their depths. "We should test it," she said finally, her tone resolute despite the tremor beneath it. But carefully, we retraced our steps like detectives piecing together a crime scene, scrutinizing every detail for signs of the loop's lingering presence. The clock on the wall ticked steadily forward, not resetting, not faltering. Outside, the sun cast long shadows across the pavement, its warmth unfamiliar after so many cycles spent in perpetual limbo. Yet even as the world appeared normal, an invisible weight pressed down on us, reminding us that appearances could be deceiving. When we reached the threshold of the cafe, I paused, gripping the doorframe tightly. My heart raced, anticipating the inevitable collision with the scooter rider who had haunted my existence for what felt like eternity. But instead of screeching tires or the deafening roar of an engine, there was silence, followed by the distant hum of traffic. "Do you think—" I began, unable to finish the thought. "I don't know," she admitted softly, glancing at me sideways. "But maybe—" Her voice trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished, suspended between possibility and doubt. Before parting ways, she turned to face me fully, her expression softening into something akin to gratitude. "I hope your days get better," she murmured, her words simple yet profound. "Even if they're just a little better, that's all anyone can ask for, right?" Her smile was faint but genuine, carrying with it a warmth that seeped past my defenses and settled deep within me. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a flicker of peace, a quiet reassurance that perhaps life wasn't entirely cruel. As I walked away from the cafe, each step felt heavier than the last, weighed down by conflicting emotions. Relief mingled with apprehension, joy intertwined with sorrow. The streets were alive with the usual chaos of urban life: honking horns, hurried footsteps, snippets of conversation carried on the breeze. And then, Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The scooter. Its rider slowed to a stop mere inches from where I stood, his glare piercing through me like ice. "Don't ever stand in my way again," he growled, his voice low and menacing. Then, without another word, he sped off, disappearing into the labyrinth of alleys and avenues. My legs wobbled beneath me, threatening to give way. Had the curse truly ended? Or was this merely a reprieve? The encounter left me shaken, a stark reminder that danger lurked around every corner, even outside the confines of the loop. But as I steadied myself against a lamppost, catching my breath, I realized something important. Fear no longer controlled me. Whatever lay ahead, I knew I had the strength to face it. Not alone, but armed with the lessons I'd learned and the connection I'd forged. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her final words echoed in my mind. "May your every day be just a little better." They weren't grandiose or poetic, yet they held immense power. A promise of resilience, a call to kindness, a testament to the enduring human spirit. In that moment, I understood that while the world might remain unpredictable and harsh, it was also filled with moments of grace, if only we chose to see them. And perhaps, somewhere along the way, those moments would lead me back to her. The music was more than just a backdrop. It was a living entity that wove itself into the fabric of our cursed existence. It ebbed and flowed with the rhythm of my despair, amplifying every emotion until it felt unbearable. Each time I died, whether by the violent collision with the scooter or some other cruel twist of fate, the haunting melody would swell to a crescendo, drowning out the chaos around me. Then, as if mocking my futile attempts to escape, it faded into an eerie silence, leaving only the lingering echo of its presence. But the music didn't remain static throughout the endless loops. No, it evolved alongside me, or perhaps against me. In the beginning, when anger burned like wildfire in my chest, the notes were harsh and discordant, mirroring the turmoil within. They clashed violently, each chord striking like a hammer against my already fractured psyche. As the cycles continued, however, the tone shifted ever so slightly. The dissonance softened, replaced by melancholic undertones that reflected my growing sense of hopelessness. By the time I reached the point of acceptance, the music had transformed into something almost tender, a bittersweet symphony that seemed to cradle my weary soul. One particularly vivid moment came during our dessert feast, a rare interlude of calm amidst the storm. The cafe speakers hummed softly with a gentle piano piece, its lilting melody weaving through the air like a whispered promise of peace. Every bite of cheesecake and brownie carried traces of that tune, blending sweetness with sorrow in a way that felt almost poetic. For those fleeting minutes, the music acted as a bridge between us, dissolving the barriers we'd built over countless iterations of hatred and misunderstanding. Her laughter danced lightly atop the notes, adding another layer to the emotional tapestry unfolding before me. Yet even this moment of serenity wasn't without its shadows. Midway through our meal, the tempo of the music changed abruptly, growing darker, heavier, as though warning of unseen dangers lurking just beyond the horizon. My fork froze midair, suspended above a plate smeared with chocolate crumbs. She must have noticed because her smile faltered for a split second before returning, albeit weaker than before. "It's okay," she said quietly, though her trembling hands betrayed her unease. And yet, despite the ominous shift, neither of us moved to leave. We clung to the fragile comfort of shared humanity, knowing full well that the reprieve might shatter at any moment. Perhaps the most poignant use of music occurred when she opened up about her life. Her voice cracked under the weight of unspoken pain, but the melody playing faintly in the background lent her words a heartbreaking resonance. A violin solo swelled just as she recounted losing her home to an indifferent landlord, a single note stretching endlessly, like a cry for help echoing across empty streets. When she spoke of being bullied in school, the bass line deepened, grounding her story in raw authenticity. It was as though the music understood what words alone could not convey, filling the gaps between syllables with layers of meaning. Each loop brought subtle variations to the soundtrack, mirroring the gradual unraveling of my own emotions. At first, the changes irritated me further, as if the universe itself conspired to mock my suffering. But later, they became anchors tethering me to reality, a reminder that even amidst the relentless repetition, there existed room for transformation. The final iteration, the one where the curse appeared to lift, was accompanied by a melody so achingly beautiful that tears pricked my eyes. It wasn't triumphant or celebratory, rather, it carried a quiet dignity, acknowledging both the pain endured and the resilience found. As I walked away from the cafe that day, the music lingered in my ears, not as a memory, but as a persistent whisper urging me forward. Even now, whenever I hear a similar tune, I'm transported back to those surreal hours spent trapped in a temporal prison. And though I'll never fully comprehend why the universe chose to entangle us in such a bizarre dance, I do know this. The music was more than mere accompaniment. It was the thread stitching together fragments of broken lives, offering solace where none should have existed. Some people leave scars, others leave lessons. Burn and reborn stories that break you, then rebuild you.